What's going on, creators and creatives? My name is Dill. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be creating this thumbnail for FaZe Rug. Let's start designing. So the thumbnail we're going to be creating today is for a video titled Asking Neighbors to Jump in Their Pool. This is what Brian and his team sent over to me. They give me a little inspiration picture here, all the notes that they want me to incorporate in the thumbnail. So this is the picture that Brian sent over for me to use in this thumbnail. Let's start cutting it out and adding all the color corrections. First things first, I'm gonna head over to filter and neural filters, and we're gonna do some skin smoothing and getting rid of any artifacts that aren't supposed to be there. All right, and there we go. After just adding one filter, his skin's already looking a lot smoother and a lot cleaner. Now it's time for the camera raw filter. So I like to go into camera raw filter and mess with honestly anything and everything until it looks how I want it to look. For this one, we're gonna up the exposure a tiny bit, not too much. Definitely gonna up the contrast a little bit. Gonna bring down the highlights so that we get more of the shadows on his face and it's not just overblown. Going to up the shadows so we have a nice and clear image. Gonna up the whites a tiny bit, and same thing with the blacks. Let's bring them up. Now I think we can up the contrast a tiny bit more. I like that. Next, I head over to color and usually make everything a little more yellow / pink. It's just how I like it. Sus. Next up, head over to the effects, and I like to up the texture a good amount. Sometimes I lower the clarity, sometimes I increase it. For this one in particular, I'm gonna lower it just a little bit so we get even smoother images, and dehaze it a tiny bit. Next up, head over to the color mixer and just adjust all the colors, hue, saturation, and luminance to make everything look a little more natural. And the last step I like to do in camera raw filter is go over to the detail, up the sharpening a tiny bit, and up the noise reduction as well. And there we go. After a slight camera raw adjustment, we went from this to this. And there we have it. Camera raw filter applied. And there we go. Everything's cut out pretty nicely. Now we can move on to making his face look even better with some more effects. First thing I like to do is to create a clipping mask and get my white brush and just paint over his eyeballs. Just like that. Now we're going to take this and set it to color. We're going to duplicate it and then set the other one to soft light. Gonna decrease the percentages of both of these and mask them to where they're not affecting his actual eyeballs, because we still want the color. There we go. Now the whites in his eyes are very clearly white and more attractive and more noticeable. We're gonna repeat that process for his teeth as well. And there we go. Next up, I'm gonna try and bring out some more color into his actual eyeballs. So I'm gonna have to match the color a little bit. Looks like we're going with a brown and a slight green on the underside. There we go, just like that. And we're gonna set this to color dodge and obviously tone it down because it is way too unrealistic right now. That looks good. Next up, I like to go in, add a gray layer, and do some dodging and burning to his face. I like to go in around the features and make them more defined, stand out a little bit more. There we go. Just a slight difference to make everything look a little more appealing and a little more attractive. So with all of this set up now, let's go ahead and start working on the background. So this is kind of what I'm imagining this thumbnail to look like slightly in its finished product. We have a pool down here with multiple different water slides entering that pool, and then we have a big magnificent house over here. And we might need to adjust the scale of things, but I think this is just a good base to kind of get us started and give us a good little place to start. Alrighty guys, so I sketched out how I want the water slide to look, and I'm liking how it's looking right now. I think the next step is adding some textures to it and adding some highlights and some shadows. All right, so I've made a little bit of progress on the actual water slide that Brian is on. So far so good. It can definitely be better, but I'm not done with it. I just wanted to get a little bit of a better start a better picture of what I'm imagining and the kind of vibe I want to go for. I think the next step now is to add all the water effects and the water splashes coming up and coming off of Brian. Alrighty, so I added all of these water effects. I think it's looking pretty good so far, but there are definitely some things we can still improve. Alrighty, so I'm liking the look of this so far. I think the next step is starting to add the elements into the background, like the pool and the house and everything else in the scene. So let's get working on that. Okay, so I have been digging for a picture of a house from the perfect angle for at least 2 hours now, but I think I finally found something and I really like it. I really like how it's looking. I think the perspective is almost perfect, and I can definitely do a lot with this, so I'm very excited. Finally found something. And yeah, okay, now it's time to add all the extra water slides and anything else that we can do to spice up the rest of this thumbnail. Alrighty, I think that first slide is a W. Just a nice small little water slide to add a little bit of flair. Next up, we got this big boy coming off from the balcony. Nice little addition. I think this empty area right here could be a perfect spot for maybe a tennis court or a basketball court. Let's see what I can do. Oh yeah, how do we like this? Oh yeah, that's looking so sick. It's a nice little pop of color too. And the next thing I'm adding is a fountain. Kind of getting rid of the fountain it already has to add a newer and nicer one. From that to that. And there we go. I added in a neighbor's house right here to kind of give a more neighborhood vibe. I think the next step is changing out Brian's shorts. I think I'm going to go for a orange or a red to kind of give contrast on the blue. Boom. There we go. I love how that turned out. It's the perfect color and it goes so nice over the blue. Guys, I think all that's left now is to add the final finishing effects and touches. And yeah, I'll be right back. There we go. I added a little bit of haze, a tiny little vignette, and cleaned up some things. I love how this is turning out. I think all that's left to do now is add the final camera raw filter to this whole thing and it'll be ready to send off. And there we go. This is the final thumbnail for FaZe Rug. I'm going to send it over to them right now and get their feedback. Let's go. I sent it over to my boy Russell, who works with Rug and takes on the thumbnail side of things. And I said, yo, boss, sorry, I was struggling. This took me so long to find the right pictures, but I think it was worth it. And he said, holy F, you're a sicko. So hyped to show the boys. That is an approval. Let's go. And there we have it. This is the final thumbnail for FaZe Rug. I hope you guys were able to get any sort of value out of this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Any feedback is appreciated. This is my first ever video. Excited to bring you guys more. I love you guys. Peace out.